I'd let you go. Thought everything we were was written in stone. In stone. My data needs a place to grow, 'cause darling, we're just getting old. You know, it's time to go. I need to set my data free to meet new people and new possibilities. It took some time to see that moving on is what we need. Breaking up is hard to do. It's time to denormalize, yeah, that's the truth. Breaking up is hard to do. Time to try something new.
And hello everyone, welcome to this workshop. Hello, I'm Stefano, and with me is Cedric. Hi Cedric, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be on screen with you today. It has been a long time. We were both on screen
Yes,
at the same
a long
time.
time indeed.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So let us start with the sound check. Do you guys hear us all right? Please give us a thumbs up if you can hear both of us loud and clear.
Please.
Okay.
Tell us.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes,
So
yes,
we do have a yes.
Okay, great.
So okay. So
you see, we started with a different song this time. Ronald, you were expecting some different song, but we surprise you all the time. So, okay.
it's not my favorite though. Okay.
Yeah, but
we do have better. I shared
rotate.
the playlist in the YouTube chat. We do have a lot of cool songs. Okay. So we are together for 2 hours. I'm Cedric Lundven and I'm leading the developer advocacy team at DataStax. You see my contact here. You can invite me on LinkedIn, GitHub, Twitter. I would be happy to have you in my network. I'm a Java geek. I created 8 years ago a Java framework called FF4J, feature flipping for Java. And with me, Stefano.
Yeah, so I'm Stefano. Many of you know me already. I am a developer advocate at DataStax. I love distributed systems. I love Apache Cassandra, and I like to teach. So here I am. Please get in touch with me.
And somebody would like you to sing.
Yes, I'm not very good at singing, I have to say.
Okay, it's not only me and Stefano on screen. As usual, we do have the full advocate team with us. So answering your question on the YouTube chat and more. I will explain that in a minute. And we are spread across the world. So this is how big the family is. And, we keep growing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, a little bit of housekeeping if this is the first time you attend. So we are live on YouTube. I think we also have the backend stream on Twitch if some things go wrong, but Twitch is really for the backup. So we will monitor your question on YouTube as we just did right now. But at the end of the session, if you still have question or you are watching to a recording right now, you cannot ask the question directly. We do have a Discord room with 17,000 people there, and we will answer your question over the weeks. So here you do have the link as well. And to access those links, we do have a nice agent in the chat called Nightbot. And you will see with exclamation mark Discord, you will get the link. And we will see multiple links will be provided to you. Today, the games are back. We will play a game together at the end. Winners will get the swag. We have the swag machine back again. So the 3 winners of the quiz at the end will get some swag shipped to them for free. But pay attention, the question will be exactly on what we do today. So what are we doing? As usual, we are doing coding, database stuff. You don't have to install anything. All the instructions are on GitHub. It's a step-by-step instruction. You can read. It's pretty well explained. To get the link, exclamation mark GitHub. So this is where we start. We will need a database, AstraDB, and we will start by creating the database because it will take a few minutes to initialize. We will code a bit in the IDE, web-based code Gitpod, VS Code in the cloud for you, no need to install anything. And we will also deploy our application today. So we do have Netlify that will help us not only deploy, but also code. More information in the 2 hours to come. Okay. Last piece of housekeeping. So we do have the game in the end. Also, we give you homework if you want. Homework is not complicated. That's really answering a couple of questions and uploading some imaging proving that you did the steps. And see, we do have more than 10 badges now. We should do some leaderboard to see who has the most badges. So today is last row, second, we will do the TikTok clone workshop. So hopefully at the end, you will have a clone of TikTok working for you with not all the features, okay? We're talking about clone, that really just a skeleton of the app, what it looks like, how it works. Do not expect to take over the world with your just demo in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, surprise, surprise, surprise. Today is full of surprise. Last but not least, it's, it's the Thanksgiving month. So November 25th, it's Thanksgiving. North America mostly do like the Thanksgiving, but, all the world could benefit of that month. So we are starting today a lottery for 3 weeks, so ending 25th of November, when you can win some gift cards. Oh, I see a typo here. So the winner can have $500. Second and third will have $250. And so to participate to this lottery is, if you engage with us, the more stuff you do, the more point you will get. So here you see the link, dts6.io/stacksgiving. You will see a form like that, and you will have some questions that give you 1 point, like subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to Twitter, share a post. Activities that give you 5 points, a little bit more engaging, like doing the homework, for instance, doing a blog post on LinkedIn. And for the most motivated among you with all the learning that you have today and the weeks after and before, just build something of your own and get 10 points. So it will be no cheating. We will choose the winner live altogether mid-December. So the more stuff you did, the more points and the more chance to win you will have. Okay, it's not the first time we are running this this lottery. So hopefully we will have 3 happy winners in a couple of weeks. So good luck, everyone. Engage with us, and let's get rolling with the content for today. So today, your mission is to build a TikTok clone, okay? Your mission is to deploy a TikTok clone into production, not only dev today, on a global CDN using one of the most robust and scalable NoSQL database on the planet. And you do have 2 hours. Easy, right? So thanks you for coming, and see you in 2 hours.
Yeah, I think they should be able to do that, right? So
come on, it should be easy. Yeah.
Let's wait a bit.
Okay, no, of course we are here with you, and we will build that together.
Oh, yeah.
So this is it's a clone of TikTok. So it's a social media type of application. And I would like to give you hints about the architecture of such an application. So if you're a beginner or never did any kind of architecture, there are multiple ways and diagram and methodologies to build an architecture, like TOGAF, DODAF, so Department of Defense created that in the USA again, or simply UML. So I like, and I used TOGAF in the past. That's great. It's a kind of a toolbox, and each step of the architecture definition, you just have some diagram you can use. And as you can see in the middle, it's always about the requirements. Okay, so if we want a social media with millions of users, okay, we are eating something big. We would like something to be very, very scalable that could handle millions of users and thousands of users connected at the same time. That's what we want to do. Even in the 2 hour, picking the good technology, we could do that. Okay. The app should run on multiple devices. It's a social media. We expect people to run that on their mobile app or mobile phone or web. And of course, it needs to be real time. Okay, so if you less beginner, you say, okay, so we need an app. This is the overall layers of an app. You do have the user interface, communicated to backend, and in between services really specialized for the user interface. And with a backend comes a database where you will ingest and get all the data coming from your post, user, or whatever. Okay, so let's dig into that. For the user interface, I told you just before that we need something that fit with the mobile and the web. So for that, we chose the JavaScript stack because JavaScript is cool. So we pick the framework React and JavaScript. Because it's also web, right? We did a workshop in the past only for mobile. It was a React Native framework, a React Native workshop. We built a to-do list at that time. But for now, let's just do the React JavaScript pieces, which is the most used front-end technology as of today. For the services, well, React JavaScript like to talk to REST services, REST APIs. So we will do our best for the services to be REST. Okay, multiple ways to implement those REST services, and you will see later how we do. For the backend, okay, you might think, oh, let's pick a relational database. Of course not. I mean, just with the title of this workshop, you know that it's not the case. But why? Why can't you use MySQL, PostgreSQL, or Oracle to run a social media? Well, a relational database has been designed 50 years ago now to do a lot of things. A lot of transactions per second, with ACID transaction, be able to store a lot of volume of data. But it has been designed for single machine, okay? And at some point, with so many users, so many transaction in real time, you reach kind of the limitation of the relational database by design. So NoSQL, for those who don't know, means not only SQL. Okay, it has nothing to do with the way to interact with the database. That's really an architecture point of view. So no surprise, the NoSQL database has been introduced by social media companies, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google. Okay, each one bringing its own. Facebook broke Apache Cassandra, and this is what we will use today. So why do you want to use a NoSQL database? Because it has been designed by default to scale. And with so many users across the world, we would like to have multiple servers across the world. Plus, in a social media, there are video, text, audio, a variety of data. So NoSQL fit the volume, velocity, and variety. This is a 3V. You may also have heard about 3V for big data. That's the same thing. Okay, so my last slide for the design and premise, and then you can start doing stuff and building stuff. So, which technology? Web and mobile, JavaScript, React. Okay, we picked that because it is the way our user will use our program, our application. Which data model? Well, social media, you can have unstructured, kind of document-ish, so JSON, because it's JavaScript in the first place. And there you, maybe sometimes you have some structures, sometimes it's just random data. So we would like to use a document-oriented data model. So we will work with document and JSON. Why NoSQL? I told you already, because we need a distributed system. We will have variety of data, high volume, high throughput. And for this range of use case, Cassandra can fit very well because you can have nodes across the world, each geographic distribution. There is no master. Again, on this channel, you have dozens of videos explaining why Cassandra is cool and how it works internally. For today, let's know that this is the database we pick, and we pick it because it's fit our use case everywhere, big, great scalability distributed across the world. Okay, a lot of blah, 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 but that's needed to understand where we are going and why I will ask you very soon for you to create the database Astra where Cassandra fit in. So because Cassandra is there, and because this is the piece that will take the most time to start. So AstraDB, so I think you can use the code !Astra in the chat right now to get the link to go there for today. It's a database as a service, so you don't have to install anything. That's the way of doing things in those interactive workshops. So you will go there, create an instance. When you create the instance, not only you will have Cassandra ready to go running for you, but also a set of APIs. Remember, we are using JavaScript. It's better if you interact with the database using API. The other way to interact with database are the drivers, but here we can use API. So how is that possible? Still in AstraDB platform, there is a data gateway, a proxy on top of the database that exposes for you the API. It's called Stargate. It's open source. You can run it yourself if you wish, stargate.io. And also in the web interface, we will have tools and screen for us to interact with the data. Much easier than just doing plain old queries with a terminal, right? And with that, without further ado, I think we can go all to GitHub. So you do have the link with
so
exclamation mark.
Well, let me invoke again the GitHub link, and so shall we start with registering AstraDB?
Yes.
Before that, I just saw a few questions on the chat that might be worth commenting on. Ronald asks for the slides, and the slides used today in the presentation. Let me tell you, the slides are in the GitHub repository. Maybe one good thing, Cedric, I remember you added a few slides in the recent presentation, so we might want to update them, or you did it already.
Okay. Action taken. So
very good. Now, so these are the updated slides, including the new material. Very good. Exactly. There is another question about whether it's possible to. So Serge asks if it's possible to do today's workshop with Angular and TypeScript instead of React and JavaScript. Well, actually, yes. The answer is yes. You start from scratch and you write your client in a different framework. Why not? Actually, it's a very good exercise, and there should be nothing against that in principle. The point is that today we are not focusing much on writing the code. We will have a look at some parts of the code, but the code basically is there already for us to inspect and deploy and play with. The actual construction of the client is covered in a video that is linked in the repository by our friend Anya Kubov, who is a well-known and talented developer influencer, I would say.
Oh, yes.
And she created this clone, the code, and she explained that very well in her video. Then basically in this workshop, we take from that point and we make it run on Netlify with AstraDB, and we explain the infrastructure parts. So that's just to clarify things. Now,
Yes.
sorry.
Just
Yeah, that's a
also
good point.
to set the expectation. So in 2 hours, we cannot really do live coding. Okay. So we do have the code ready for you, and what we expect you to do is to understand the code and how it has been done today with React. But technically speaking, there is nothing preventing you to recode that on TypeScript Angular.
Absolutely. Yeah, so for those of you who are new to React, we have a nice introduction to React, which is a repository in itself with the instructions for, to get started with React. Today, we assume some familiarity, even though that's not the main focus, the code. But as I said, we will be having a look at some parts of the code, namely those most related to the infrastructural part, the infrastructure we deploy on. So, but one thing at a time. Let's start with AstraDB, because as Cedric said, first thing, we need a database. And then we will store our posts, our data back in the application on that. So let me switch on my monitor. You should see now here. So this is the screen you see if you follow the Astra Registration link. So we start with this, then we go to having a look at the repository. So if you follow the Astra Registration link, you can here sign up. If you don't have an account yet. This is so name, email, password, or you can sign up with GitHub or Google. You just sign up. Now, I already have an account, so I will skip signing up, and magically I'm already logged in. But obviously you probably have to log in, to sign up and log in. At this point, you will have, so this is the main screen in AstraDB. Something that we would like to stress is that using AstraDB is free to up to a very high level of a free tier that affords you a monthly free level of usage that amounts to 80 gigabytes storage and maybe 40 millions.
Yeah, that's a
read
lot.
and writes, something like that. So you can actually run real stuff within the free tier. So, okay, so here on the left, if you logged in, on the left, you will see a dashboard listing your databases. Now you see I have already some of them. You probably won't. No big deal, because there is this button. You see this button on the left, create database, and we start by creating the database. So if you click here, you will be able to insert a database name, a key space name, and other details. So now let me give you, okay, this is all described in the repository, and I will give you the link again in a second. But for the moment, stick with me, and please do not be creative too much, so everything will work very smoothly without having to modify anything in the code. So for database name, we suggest using workshops. And for key space name, TikTok_keyspace. So, okay, what is a database? Well, it is a database. But what is a key space, you might wonder? A key space is a grouping of tables. So in the terminology of Cassandra, and AstraDB is built on Apache Cassandra, in the terminology of Cassandra, a key space is a group of tables. So it is a useful way to group together tables that belong to the same application, for example. So if we have multiple tables serving the TikTok clone, we put all of them in the same key space, which allows for quick handling of common features such as distribution of the data and stuff like that. But anyway, that's not so important for us today, but please use this name so everything works out of the box. So key space is like a relational database. Well,
like a schema, if you wish.
Yes,
schema
it is
in a
like a
relational
schema.
database.
So it is a group
it's a logical group.
Yeah, Sorry,
Go for it.
sorry, Cedric. It
No.
was a group of related tables, but it's not relational. So Cassandra and AstraDB is non-relational. So yeah, there's a big difference there, but more on that maybe later or in other workshops, more to the point. Now, we have to select a provider, a cloud provider, and a region. So no big difference here. You can choose whatever you want. I prefer AWS today. And since I'm based in Europe, I will choose an area that is Europe, Middle East, and I want my database to live in Germany. So I click on Frankfurt, but that's really up to you. Okay, so database name, key space name, cloud provider, region, and area and region. Now I can click create database. So behind the scenes, when I click this button, a lot of stuff happens handled by DataStax machines in their own cloud provider accounts. Some containers are created and other things happen. And ta-da, we are back to the dashboard. And you see I have these new database workshops here. And if you look at this list on the right, workshops is here, and it will be in the status of pending. You should be able to see that here it is pending, which means that it is being initialized. That takes a couple of minutes or so. And while we wait, I please ask you to give me a thumbs up in the YouTube chat or in Discord if you manage to get to this point. Let me repeat that all instructions are given in a detailed way in the GitHub repository. So you create database, remember the right database name and key space name, choose your area and region, and just click create database. If you get to this point and you see your workshops database in pending state, that's great. And that's step one done for you.
We do have a lot of
yes,
thumbs up,
that's very
both
good.
on Discord.
So don't worry if it's not active yet, your database. It will just take a few minutes more while it's being created and initialized, ready to accept our data.
Exactly. You know, we are starting a Cassandra instance. So it's a distributed database. So multiple servers are started for you. Three servers for a single one of you. So yeah, it could take a few minutes to start. But as soon as we can let this database in pending state, do a little bit of slide again. But you know, I promise most of the of the theory is at the beginning.
So let me just, before we move to the slides, let me just answer Stanislav, if I saw it right. Yes, you can watch this video later because it's recorded and you will be able to watch it anytime at this link. So don't worry. Okay, the other thing, sorry Cedric, but this is, I would like to give it now. There is, let me repeat the link to the repository. This is the repository, and just very quickly because, so here everything is detailed and listed. So if you scroll down, there are questions, links to slides and stuff. There are instructions for the homework, as Cedric said already. If you want to get a nice juicy badge, please do the homework so you will learn a bit more. And then there is the actual proceeding of today's workshops. And we are at step 1, create AstraDB instance. You see there is everything is written here, database name, key space name, and everything. And there is also a nice visual guide to show you what you should do. Okay, so I will keep this repository here for reference because we will basically follow the steps along interleaved with the slides. And with that, I will go back to Cedric.
Yeah, you know, the database is pending for most people. We are not in a hurry. Let's not rush. So just 2 more questions before me going to the theory.
Yeah.
One, got a question just asking what will which data will be in the DataStax data server, data center, I will make it, and which data will be on AWS. Because when you start a database, we ask you to pick one cloud providers, right? So your data will be in the cloud provider. So if you pick AWS, what will happen is the Astra platform will invoke the Kubernetes service inside AWS, named AKS, and start the pod there. So the Cassandra nodes, Cassandra pods will be spun up there. But I think the security now, the system now has a lot of compliance, SOC 2 compliance security for sure, but even more highest level of security. Okay, and second question, no, AstraDB is not relational. It's based on Cassandra and column-oriented, so no relation. Okay, so that's for the database. The database is initializing. What about now your app? Okay, we will do a React application. We will do a bunch of JavaScript. Do not worry. I will ask you, how do we want to deploy this JavaScript? Because again, we want to deal with millions of developers. So having just a application server like Node could be hard to do, because you will have to start a lot of nodes server across the world to have your application to be very performant. So what can we do to cope with that? Well, so let's get rolling. The answer to that, it's called the Jamstack. So let me go here and share the link with you. Here, so sharing all the links. So Jamstack is an acronym for JavaScript. Maybe I should make that bigger. So JavaScript, API, and markup. So the JavaScript is the one you love. Could be React, Angular, Vue, whatever. You will code your app as you like, using your favorite JavaScript language. The API is also something you are pretty in use. Could be REST, could be GraphQL, could be the gRPC, could be the way you love to invoke your backend services. And the markup is where you will store your content, like the text, the paragraph, the metadata. And in the Jamstack, you can split all the context, all the content, like text, sentence, and such, with the code. It has not to be in the same pages. So what will happen? With this JavaScript and markup, you will have something called a static page generator, something that take your code and generate, render, and optimize your website even before deployment. The idea is like kind of a compilation to have at the end a website that is the smallest as possible and the most efficient as possible. So today we will do JavaScript app, and then we will click a button and we will do the static page generation. Okay, so that's the first step. When we do have our website optimized, what we want to do? What we want to do is to upload this optimized website to something called a CDN. CDN, Content Data Network. All the websites are using that to be as fast as possible. So you do have servers across all the world, so providing by your CDN provider, so big names like Akamai or Varnish, so some tools and data center available across the world. And you just upload your website, and because it has been rendered, your website is static. So when you access the application, you will download all the static piece from a CDN, and it could be super, super fast. From that standpoint, then you will interact with some backend just to fetch only the data. but you don't have to download and render view each time, the views each time. It's done once, you download that, and now you can only make the UI change, providing the data. So we are moving from something with client, web server, application server databases, the diagram you see here on the left, to Jamstack, where you, your client, so your brother, will access a URL, download all the static files, so JS, HTML, and most will work locally, and you will just invoke some API endpoints to fetch the data you need. And you can scale the API as you need, and you can locate the APIs where you want. So that's the most important things to understand. Because you pre-render the app, they will be super fast to load. You decouple the views and the APIs, because now the views is static generated on the CDN, the APIs are dedicated, and you move to the CDN to have the static website as close as possible to your user to be as fast as possible. Why is cool? Well, I won't read. I give you the pleasure to read. But today, as the Jamstack implementation, we will use something called Netlify. Okay, so we will build something, and as soon as you see the Netlify command, this is in fact a Jamstack pieces where you want to deploy and render your application. Okay, and with that, I think now would be the time to do a lot of hands-on. I think you do have all the pieces. You have the architectures, the database, and Jamstack. It's maybe a bit mysterious still, but we are here to answer your question, and now this is you to do it. So let's do it with Stefano.
Yeah, very good. So before we go on, I've seen a question on Discord, and I think, Cedric, you would be the best person to answer. Someone, AAP, asks if it's possible to do Jamstack with Java Spring. I think that's a funny question in a sense, because the J in Jamstack stands for JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there are some transpiling solutions, but not out of the box, I guess.
No, not really. I wish, I'm a Java guy. I'm a Spring lover. You have no idea how much I love Spring. But, still with Spring, you need to execute some Java. So you need a GVM. You need a
server to run stuff.
Even, not really, because with Spring, you do have a fat jar. So it's all included. So you can totally, you could potentially totally have the jar distributed across the world, but it cannot run in a browser. You still need a GVM, and the GVM will be at the server side. So unfortunately, no, for the view, I don't think you can use something like Java, but Java could be used for the API part.
Yeah, well, if there were an API part, a server, but in this case, as you will see, there is a clever way to make without having to deploy and manage yourself server side, which is cool. One step less to worry about. Okay, so let me go back to my screen, and there we go. Okay, so I've seen many of you in the meantime reported your database became active, as mine did. So that's good to know. And we will keep the database there waiting for us later. Now, let's switch to the repository. And thank you, Luca, because with good timing, you invoked the Nightbot command to get to the repository, which I will show here. And you'll find the link. Let me write that on Discord as well, just for everyone to be able to follow. Here, repo. So it seems we are having time to do everything carefully today. Okay, so you just saw what is the goal architecture, what is the role of Netlify. As Cedric said, this might be a bit mysterious to you still, but let's start with doing. And you see in the repository at step 2, you will see this nice green button, deploy to Netlify. Now, I advise you to click on it. Maybe even better, you might click opening it in a new tab. So right click, middle button click, whatever. Let me just open it in a new tab. And let's go to this new tab. So what happens? Oh, sorry, open link in new tab. Here, okay. So what happens is a lot of things, actually. You are redirected to Netlify website, where you probably have to authenticate with your GitHub account. And as you see, I have to give permission to Netlify to access my GitHub stuff. Go ahead and do that. Okay, so this window closes, and you can just save and deploy. So it basically, this window, this model is asking me, is it okay if I, Netlify, make a copy of the repository in your GitHub with this name? Yes, it is okay. Save and deploy. Now, something starts when you hit save and deploy. A few things start, actually. First, a site is created in Netlify in my account, because I magically have a Netlify account just by connecting with my GitHub with single sign-on. I have my own team, whatever it is. And this team contains this site. What is a site for Netlify? It is exactly what Cedric was speaking about. It's mainly a CDN that is, so it is a part of a CDN ready to serve my static content. It will be ready to serve my static content once there is some static content to be served according to the Jamstack logic. And you see in this moment, behind the scenes, not only is the site created, but also the GitHub. So the content of the repository is being built and actually deployed. And when this is over, behind the scenes, a repository is created in my GitHub with the contents of what I am deploying. So this is all listed here. So what does the Netlify deploy button do? Create a new repository for you on GitHub. Create a site on Netlify, and a site will be available at a particular domain, custom domain, different for each one of you. And it will link the two together. Because something that Netlify also supports is continuous deployment. So it is able to link, you can link your code base and the deployment. So let's go back to Netlify. And now, if you click on site deploy in progress here, you will access some more details on this new site that you created. And if you click on this master here, this is the deploy that is going on. Let's click on this, and you will see a long growing log of how the deploying is going. Because this deploy takes a few minutes, and as we were speaking, this was proceeding for you as it was for me. Let me scroll this deploy. So what happens, for those of you familiar with Node, a lot of dependencies are going to be installed and downloaded. Then build process starts. You see a Netlify special, let's say, customized build process happens, which basically plays the Jamstack. So it creates the static part that will be then made available in the Netlify CDN under the domain of your site. That's not all there is to see, because there is also this part functions bundling, which is the most interesting in a sense, because this is connected to the serverless function part of the Netlify deploy. We will see them later at length. The last part is deploy site. So this is the actual step where the content, the static content, is made available in the CDN. And then when build is complete, some post-processing stuff occurs, and this just finished. It takes a few minutes. Probably it has finished for you as well. Okay. Okay, sustainable. Let me go back to this in a second, to your question. But the point is that when you see pushing to repository and then finished processing, the deploy is finished. And in a second, we will see, okay, deploy logs are currently unavailable. That's funny. Probably, I think the deploy is probably going anyway, even though you can't access the logs, I hope. But this is really something I never saw.
Yeah, the first time I see the message, but
I think the deploys is going anyway.
So,
hello, Xar, nice to see you. Welcome. So, okay, someone is asking how you get to this page. Okay, let's start from the beginning. You see, there is my team here. On the top of Netlify page, you see my team. And I have many, in principle, I can have many sites. Now, this is my site, Heuristic Engelbart. Yours will have a different name. I don't know, Curious Salamander, whatever. Click on this. So you go to that one site. Now, you see below so this is the domain name. Don't click that yet because there's not much to see actually. But if you go below that, there is this deploys from GitHub. If you click on the GitHub, no, that's the wrong thing, sorry. Here, sorry, below that, production deploys. So you see this production master, this is the deploy that was going on for you. And if you click on that, well, it's finished. So you can scroll all the logs. And in particular, you might want to check, maybe I can try to make this bigger. You might want to check that the logs finish with this success and finalizing part. So you can actually navigate your Netlify in several ways. In particular, I can go back to my site and you see there is a lot of stuff. There are functions, we will see them later. Functions are part of this deployment. And you see some names, add data, edit, post. These are parts of the TikTok clone that we will see later. But if you go to the site and you can inspect, I can't find, here, site settings. You can look at site settings. Somewhere here, there should be domain management. I think somewhere you should be able to see environment. You might also add some environment variables to your deployment, but this we will do in a cooler way. Anyway, you can actually take your time and navigate everything Netlify has to offer. The important thing is that now we have to go to your own copy of the repository on your GitHub, which is a very important remark. So let me go back to my team. I will start from the beginning. My team, my sites. This is my site. I click on this, and here you see this GitHub. There is a link saying GitHub. If you click on it, look, I finished. I ended up on GitHub. But pay attention, this is not the DataStax Devs GitHub repository. This is my own. Look. This is my own GitHub account. So we were saying that Netlify deploy button makes a copy of the repo, and that's it. So this is the original repository. You see there is DataStax Devs, the one I started from. Then I did all of the Netlify thing. And here, please make sure that you are on your own GitHub from this point on. So to avoid mistakes, let me close the DataStax Devs copy. Now, by the way, this is not a fork. This is just an independent copy of the repository, and it is the one that will be the base for your Netlify deployments. Anyway, I would like you to give me a thumbs up if you are on your GitHub repository. So you will see something different than my name here. You will see your name, but in particular, make sure this is not DataStax Devs. And as we wait for you to give me a thumbs up, yes, I'm on the right GitHub. I will scroll down because that's exactly the same as the other README, obviously. And we will go to where we were in the other identical README. So let's give folks a couple of minutes to make sure everyone is on the right path here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I see thumbs up. Should I be in GitHub Lab? Regular GitHub should be fine.
Cool. I mean, maybe it was a confusion with GitLab and GitHub. Yeah, so please use GitHub.
Yes.
The instructions later are made for
we will jump. We will use GitLab later. Sorry, Gitpod. There are too many Git something.
Yeah. So many Git.
Regular GitHub now. So this is just a repository on GitHub.
Yeah, you know, during the time things are initializing, maybe I can just go back to my screen and just for me to show a diagram just to show what you did in a visual. Yeah, so here we are. So step one, you created an Astra instance. So this is the box in orange on the bottom right-hand corner. So you created the instance. And I told you on top of the 3-node Cassandra, we will play and use the API layer, which is REST. Okay. Second button you clicked was deploy to Netlify, the green one. And so you sign up to the Netlify website. You fork the GitHub repo. And now your GitHub repo is uploaded and pushed to Netlify. Now you will have a Netlify app with a strange name. So Spooky Spider. And it's generated automatically. You can change the name, by the way, when you are done. And it will be here. So you will have on one hand a website, almost complete, and on the other hand a database, but nothing in between. So now our work would be using something else to edit the code just to reconcile those two. Yeah, I think yes. I think we can now go back and open Gitpod, I think.
Okay. I see. Okay, let me go back to mine. I see Kaiser has a problem. I'm not sure I understand what that is. Invalid Gitpod YAML. So maybe, but you already started the next step, I guess, because Gitpod should not have been touched until step 4 here, I think. Okay, continue with default configuration. Okay. It's not. I'm not sure I know what's going on here. Maybe Rugs. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, Rugs is on it.
Okay.
So let's keep moving.
So let's keep moving
and see if it's a local issue or everybody has it.
Okay, good. So one way or the other, you are now in your own GitHub repository. So make sure it is yours. I said that already, but as you see also in the README, we make it very, highlight very much this point. And it's time to start Gitpod. So what is Gitpod? Cedric said that it is a very nice and handy IDE in the browser that works well for everyone without the need of installing anything. And to do that, we have to find a button in the README. So please scroll down in point 4. Now there might be a small trick here that I will highlight in a second, but the important point is that there is a button that we will find here. Yeah, there's a question on Safari already. 1 second. because that's important. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. There is, so let's look for this Gitpod button. Make sure you are in your GitHub, and then you can open this, click here, and there is a nice button. Now, I suggest you to open this in a new tab again. So let me open this button. Let me click this button in a new tab, and magically a new window opens over to Gitpod. Now, before starting the Gitpod, it asks me to single sign on with GitHub. I prefer to go with GitHub because there is where I have my stuff. But so if you click, maybe I try to make it bigger. If you click continue with GitHub or whatever ways to authenticate yourself, now you probably have, you see, there is some single sign-on magic going on. And now what happens is that Gitpod is creating an IDE for me in, well, actually in its cloud, and I will access it in the browser. Now, let's go back, because this is the easy path, and this works for those of you who use, I think it's Chrome and Firefox. But I appreciate that there are many browsers out there, and unfortunately, this integration is not working for everyone. But you know what you have to do? You can take, yeah, that's, maybe we should have a Nightbot command to that, I think. Yeah, Gitpod. So the trick is that you have just to build manually an URL. Yeah, Cedric's, thank you. You just pasted the solution. So if you have, say, Safari, and this integration with the referrer trick does not work, you construct by hand this URL, which is https://gitpod.io/#, and then you just paste the whole URL to your GitHub. And you open this link in a new window. Now, either way, you end up with something like this. Now, I think I have dark mode on, so you might see it with a white background, but that's a secondary thing.
And if yeah, just a question. So if Gitpod is initializing, you're good to go. If you got an error, referrer not found, now you need to use the trick.
The trick
I gave you on the YouTube chat.
Yeah. So, okay. So what happens? Basically, in this IDE in the cloud, your repo is being cloned. Some initial scripts are being run. In particular, dependencies are installed for you. And as you see, when this is over, and you can see this, let's do this here. When this is over, you will see the IDE looking like this. So on the left, you have a file explorer. On the top, you have basically a file editor. And this opens the README already for your convenience. And at the bottom, there is a nice console. An actual console. I can type commands in it. So I hope you can see. I try to make this bigger, but that might, yeah, maybe this is slightly better for you to read. Let's see. Okay, so there is a lot of stuff here, and this is basically a clone of the repository. You see, there is the same things that are in my GitHub. Now, before going on, maybe just as a curiosity, this magic of Gitpod relies on, among other things, and all of the automation kindly offered by Gitpod, all of this relies on this tiny file gitpod.yaml that I will open just for you to satisfy your curiosity.
This is why you are here anyway.
Yes.
Satisfy curiosity and learn.
So you see, there is a bunch of commands that are executed when the Gitpod IDE is started. And basically, a new container is created for you, and some commands are run in that. And this amounts to ensuring there is a certain version of Node, installing NPM, installing some commands, and then installing all dependencies required by this project. And that's basically it. Plus a few other options, how to treat open ports and so on. But this is just, I mean, you are invited to look into the Gitpod YAML and learn to set up your own Gitpod integrations for your repositories. There is actually much more than that you could do here. Okay, so let's go back to the README here. And maybe just as a test, you can run commands here. And a very nice command is git remote -v. Why I'm doing that? Yeah, sustainable Gitpod is this, well, it's based on Visual Studio and it has the same look and feel and UI, basically, yes. It is a Visual Studio in the browser, more or less. So if you type this git remote -v, this is yet another way to make sure you are yourself and you are not DataStax devs, which is something that you can see here. So we already asked for enough thumbs up on this point, so let's just go on. And we are ready to start stuff. So first thing, I would like to npm install -g Netlify -cli. This is just a very important node dependency. And this is basically a package that offers integration with Netlify. Not only integration, but also some kind of emulation as far as serverless functions are concerned. And well, I advise you to run this npm install -g Netlify CLI. This is all given in the README anyway. And now the Gitpod is there for us to use, except one thing, because now it's time to ensure we can access our database from here. And that's an important point, because you see, let's recap what we did so far. We created a database, right? And a key space ready to host our data, our tables, the data which is the backing the application, the TikTok clone. And we have an IDE where we will start the application in development mode. But we have to teach this application, the code here in the Gitpod, basically, the code in development mode, we have to teach it how to reach the database. And since this is a database in the cloud, there will be some form of authentication at play, indeed. So let's do that. Let me go back to Astra. And I've been auto-logged out, but that's okay. Let me very quickly use my service account. And there we are. Okay, so one thing of Astra is that if you leave the window inactive for some time, as we do in workshops, you might be just auto-logged out as a security measure. So you just log in again, no problem. And there we are. Okay, so we need to create a token. What is a token? A token is an authentication form for accessing the database from outside. It is similar to a user password combination, but it is a token. It is a very long string that contains and encodes some information, and it will be just given to Astra when we connect from outside, and that will grant us access to the database. Actually, there are tokens with various degree of permission. What we need is a rather powerful token because we will also need to create tables and stuff. So let's go. Okay, you can start with your main Astra dashboard. You see there is your workshop DB, and by now it is sure active. Now, if you scroll all the way to the right, there is this nice 3 dots menu here, and generate a token here in the menu. So click on generate a token, and you will be able to generate a token. Now, you have to select a role. I just said you can grant your token different levels of permission. What we need now is, and look for it, database administrator. So a pretty powerful role. Probably in a real production level application, you will have different roles. You will distribute them with minimal, granting minimal powers to various actors. But now we just create one token with database administrator. And if you click generate token, ta-da! Here is your token. So, well, actually, when you generate a token, you have different things. Depending on the way you connect to Astra, you will need to use one or the other. So this information will not be shown again to you out of security. So if you want to keep this, and I advise you to do so, you can click on download token details, and you will be able to download a CSV file and store it, please, in a secure location. You will be able to save it somewhere in your computer.
And please do not stream your token on YouTube.
Yes, and do not commit it to GitHub or whatever, because it's obviously it's the keys to your database. In particular,
so Stefano, you would have to delete your own.
Yes, absolutely. But now you see, it's not completely shown. I think it goes on here. So, but yes, I will. Usually after every workshop, we do delete them. So if you click on the clipboard icon here, you can copy it. And in particular, you see there is a client ID, a client secret, and a token. What we need today, and that depends on how we connect to the database, what we need today is the token. Now, let me keep the token in my secret text editor here. You can't see it, but just out of convenience. Okay, so please make sure you have your token somewhere, at least stored somewhere, but you will need it very soon. And that's it. So we have the token. That's a very important step. So I'm asking you to give me a thumbs up if you get your token. Yep. So database administrator is the role you have to choose. And I will maybe walk you through the steps once more from the start. So you are in your AstraDB.
It's tricky.
Yeah, you are in your AstraDB main dashboard. Here is your workshops database. You scroll to the right, and there is this 3 dots menu. You generate a token here. You select a role, database administrator, and you click generate token. Okay, I see many thumbs up. Again, let me just stress that generating the token is explained in detail in the README. So if you get lost or if you want to repeat the practice as a self-service thing later, it's all very clearly explained. And while we wait another minute, let me tell you one thing. In case your token is somehow leaked because you paste a screenshot on a public chat or whatever, and oops, the token is there, no problem, because you can go to your token management dashboard and you can revoke the token. Obviously, then your application might stop working and you have to do stuff. You have to maybe replace the token in your application, which means redeploy and whatnot. But okay, that's usual, ordinary maintenance in a sense. So let's say data leak response action. Okay, so we generate application token, and this will be later used to connect with the database. Very nice. Okay, so let's go there and connect with the database. So you have your token, and I'm, in the meantime, I see several thumbs up, so we can go ahead. Let me go back to GitHub, sorry, to Gitpod. Okay, today I'm mixing them up all the time. So we are in our IDE.
Gitstar.
Yeah, yeah, they have a very similar name, too similar. So we just installed Netlify CLI. There is also something else that we are about to run, and this command is this long command. Look, maybe I can try to make this bigger yet. npm exec Astra setup. So this Astra setup is a very useful command. Right, I can't paste like this here, sorry, Windows. So npm exec Astra setup, and then After that, we give it 2 arguments. One is the database name. You remember we used workshops. And second is the keyspace name, which is TikTok_keyspace. Now, if you run this command, it will ask you something. Can I install Astra Setup? Yes, you can. Blah, 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 installing, and take your token ready, because the next question will be install Netlify CLI gives error. Okay. So Chokara, that should have been the previous command, install -g. So, okay. Rugs, maybe you can help Chokara.
Yeah, Netlify.
Okay.
Make sure you are in the proper folder, the one with the file name package.json.
Yeah, but
this is where you install.
I think that's it's a global installation anyway. So it's an npm install -g. So it should be, but yeah, actually, you should have started the Git pod in that directory anyway.
Oh, that's G is global. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So okay, back to us. This npm exec Astra setup will ask you for your token, and let me paste it. Now you can see it in its entirety. Damn, I have to delete it afterwards. So, okay, you paste your token, you hit enter, and then for you, something very nice happens. You see, I didn't do anything else, because this Astra setup connects with my Astra, checks that I have the right database, checks that I have the right key space, gets a lot of tiny stuff, and creates a nice file. A nice file that you can see if you do ls-a, you can see this file .env. This has been created by Astra Setup, and maybe it's worth to open it in the file editor in Gitpod. You see, Astra Setup is an environment files, and that defines a few environment variables that contain details and secrets on how to connect to your own Astra database. In particular, there is the token, but not only that, there is, you see, also the region and key space name and everything. Okay, so there we are. Maybe I can ask you for a thumbs up if you manage to have your .env file created, and you can check that its contents are something similar to what you see here. Sorry. Did you manage to get it automatically give me invalid token before I can even introduce the token? That's funny. So sustainable, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you got that, delete any .env file
and try
that you may
again.
have.
Just paste the whole command. Make sure you don't paste an enter, a new line character at the beginning or the end of the copied token, because maybe that might scramble your input to the script, something like that. So if Ctrl-V doesn't work, okay, maybe right click and paste. If you're on Linux, probably middle click should also work. But Gitpod is a bit tricky because I think it intercepts mouse events at some level. So it might be playing tricks. Anyway, okay, so at least someone is following along, and we go ahead. So we have our .env done. Yeah, so what does Astra Setup do? We just explained that. It's time to start the application. Now, we are about to start it in development mode. So that means Netlify is not yet involved. We are running everything, well, in this case, I'm running everything in Gitpod. And if you, for some reason, are not using Gitpod, but you're running on your local machine, everything is running in your local machine. And mind that the client will be served from the development process, and the functions, the serverless functions, will actually be running on your machine as well, or on Gitpod as well, because we are in development. So let me do that. Netlify dev. This is all explained in the README. If you hit Netlify dev, something happens, namely the project is being prepared and served in development mode from a server running here in your own Gitpod. And magically, there will be, so this server will be exposed as a, you see, as a local host port, which actually Gitpod renames in its own way to make it available in the browser, but that's a detail. You see, I am seeing my own TikTok clone. Maybe I will open it in a new tab just to see it better. And there we go. We are very much seeing our own, and I hope you do so too. We are seeing our own TikTok clone. Nice. This is, okay, if you look at the address, you notice that this is the same address as my Gitpod with prefix with the port number. So it is some magic that Gitpod does for you, but not so important now. The thing is that you are seeing your TikTok clone, and there is some level of interaction. Now you can create new posts, you can follow and play the movies also. Yeah, let me remind, the code to this is ready for you to inspect. And if you are curious as to how the code was built, I suggest you to watch the 2 hours video by Anya Kubov, who does a very great job at explaining and building from scratch this clone. But let's go back to Gitpod. Okay, so we are running in development mode.
You know, again, it was a lot of steps. Maybe I could explain those steps with just a slide, and
yes,
I will
because
let
that's
you
the right point to pause here. If you are stuck, please let us know in the chat. In the meantime, let me switch to your slides.
Yeah, I see my screen. Okay, so the first things we did was to click that Open in Gitpod button. It opened a VS Code in the cloud, all package ready to go, all the extension. By the way, we did not say that, but in this Gitpod, you do have NPM. Okay, you did it, you tried it. You also have Python. You also have Java, Maven, Docker. It's there. Just try all the command in the terminal. It works. That's just amazing.
And you can also install new stuff.
Yes.
To some extent, yeah.
Okay. From that, first command was Astra setup. So Astra setup asks you for a token. With this token, go to Astra, pick all the parameters, the metadata we need, your database name, your database ID, the key space name, everything's needed to interact with the database. All this step has been done for you with the Astra setup script, and the Astra setup script all need the token, okay? And then we run something called Netlify dev to run the app inside Gitpod. As you can see, there is no link between Gitpod to Netlify yet, and no link from Netlify to Astra. But this is coming. This is now what we will do. Make sure that all this config that for now is only at Gitpod level to make that available in the others components.
Yeah. Okay. So Sean is asking where we stopped in the steps, right? So, well, we have run step 7, connecting to the database. We have run step 8, launching the application in development mode. So no Netlify involved yet. And now it's time to connect to Netlify. So doing the actual deploy, because so far we've been running in Gitpod. I could have been running on my machine, whatever, but now it's time to go and deploy.
Yep.
Okay, so
back to you.
Okay, thank you. Because now I'll go back to my screen. So step 9. To answer Sean, we are starting step 9. Okay, so let me go to Gitpod and let's Control-C to stop the development mode because now we are about to get serious. Maybe I can, okay, I can also close this just to make it clearer to follow. And what do I have to do? Okay, first I have to make this command shell aware that I have an account on Netlify. So let me do Netlify login. And this is a trick because Netlify login would open a browser page to make me do authorization, so to make me authorize Gitpod to access my Netlify. But within Gitpod, I cannot, this is a window that cannot be opened in this simple browser that is embedded in Gitpod. So if you see this, and you will, be sure to click, so you do Netlify login, this opens this window in the mini browser within Gitpod. Make sure you click open site in your window. And there we go. Now, an application named Netlify CLI is asking for permission. Sorry. Yes, authorize. Something is stuck in my throat. Okay. So if you authorize, you can close this window. Sorry, yes. My voice is funny, but should be.
Okay,
should be
I will do the voiceover.
Okay, I will just
so
pretend.
Now Stefano is clicking on authorize. You can see that the authorize was not properly open on Gitpod itself. You really had to open that on a new tab, authorize, and now if you see the log, you can keep going with Netlify.
Thank you, Cedric. I should be back. So when you authorized Gitpod to access Netlify, you can close the window. Let me also close this one, which anyway would not be working. And in your console, you should see you are now logged in to your Netlify account. So subsequent operations that you do in this shell will be aware. I talk too much, but there is so much to say. So anything you will do later in this console will be aware of your login to Netlify, namely.
So Jérôme told us you talk too much.
Yeah. But there is so much to say. Okay, so now that this shell has access to our Netlify, let me do the next step, Netlify link. This will make my Gitpod, or anyway, my development environment, aware of that one particular site on Netlify. So you should just see the first answer. How do you want to link this folder to a site? You should just use current. That should be enough. And if everything works, you see directory linked, and you will see magically your own curious salamander link here, ready for you. And indeed, this is what happened for me. So I'm done. Well, almost done. Yeah. Thank you, David. They already asked me to sing, but they don't know what they are asking for. So, okay, now Netlify is, so this Gitpod, or actually the development environment in this directory is able to, is aware of which particular site I'm going to push or to deploy to. And this we did with Netlify link. Now, next step in the README after Netlify link, there is an important point to do because I have to inject the environment variables over from this Gitpod to Netlify. So far, we've been running the application in development mode, and so locally here in Gitpod, and everything had access to these environment variables. But over in Netlify, there is nothing yet. You remember that I showed you some place to insert environment variables in Netlify? You could do that by hand with mouse, point and click, but we are much cooler than that, and we just...
We are.
Yes. And we just netlify env import.env. By the way, this env file obviously will be in your gitignore all the time. That's why we have to inject it in the right way to get over to Netlify. Indeed, if you run this Netlify env import env command, these variables will be made available in the environment in Netlify, ready for your functions to pick them up, in particular, say the token and stuff like that, and so they will be able to access the database. We're almost done because we just have to do Netlify build, which is a build process. So this will take your source code and bundle it in the way ready to be static stuff, ready to be served in the Jamstack philosophy over in the CDN. Not only that, but also the functions, because there are the functions, and this will be something we are going to speak about very soon. Okay, so the magic of this, well, let's say something about the function while this works, because as we already saw before in the Netlify logs, not only is the client application bundled into static content ready to be served, but also you see here them again, function bundling. What are those functions? Well, there are a few slides on that, but basically these are parts of the code that are in this repo, but they are not part of the client. Namely, they will be run as in serverless way. They will be run within the Netlify infrastructure as we deploy to production. And this is what we are going to do. So last step, Netlify deploy --prod. Sorry, deploy --prod. And if you enter this command, everything that has been bundled and built so far is going to be pushed to your own Netlify website. And there we go. So we can open this site just by looking at this website URL, but we are cool. So Netlify open :site. And there we go. Now again, I don't like this very small window, so let me open this link in a big window, but that's no big difference. Okay, there we are. This is our Netflix clone. Sorry, our TikTok clone.
Netflix
Today
was
I'm mixing
2 weeks ago, and you have the recording in the YouTube channel. Oh, that's a good time to say, hey, if you enjoy the content and the interactivity and such, yeah, consider to subscribe to the channel.
Yes. We do stuff every week, so if you're interested, you're welcome. Jump on board. Okay, so this is the same, it has the same appearance as the TikTok clone we saw earlier, but if you look at the address bar, this is now a real URL. So it is something running in Netlify. Again, each one of you will have a different link, but the point is that this is running in the Jamstack logic. So the content is, so the client is static stuff served by the CDN, and the backend, there is no backend in the sense of a server, an API you have to deploy and run, because this is handled as a set of serverless functions running. Actually, they are Lambda functions, AWS Lambda, if I remember correctly. But the point is that they are handled by the Netlify infrastructure for you. So you have the very good news that you don't have to deal with infrastructure, backend infrastructure yourself. You just write some code, some small, basically stateless functions that serve some purpose, and they will be run by you, for you by Netlify. And with that, we basically got to the goal of today. Netlify application up and running, TikTok clone running. And I think I should stop here and let Cedric do some more remarks on the slides, right?
Eventually, no, I like your voice, but give me 5 minutes.
Okay, so there you go.
To be honest, not even 5 minutes. Using all the command Netlify, build, deploy, import env, we push the config, the .env, to the Netlify website. So now the Netlify website does know how to connect to Astra. What is the token? What is the URL? And you do have a full-fledged website running for free, by the way, no charge. And this TikTok website will run, forever. Same for the AstraDB. You have no charge. So if you want to create a small project for you, it's great. This stuff is free. Okay, so the app is running. So now let's dig into one of the pieces called the serverless function. Okay, so let's go with that. So serverless does not mean you don't need any server or infrastructure anymore. Yeah, I wish it would be the case, but no, that's not it. So serverless really, just mean that you will create some code, JavaScript code, just a function, as the name stated, on a dedicated folder in your app. Just with that, when you deploy your code, Netlify will know, oh, this folder contains function. Every single function in that folder should be exposed as an API. And the API creation, definition, exposition is done by Netlify itself. This is not you to code. And it's called serverless. Serverless means it will be instantiated and executed only when needed. And the more power you need, the more capacity Netlify will provide you. It will auto scale out if they need more power, or scale down if less power is needed. So I think you do have something like 120,000 calls for free per month, so you're totally good. But then you will get the app will shut down, and you will be asked to provide more. And to be honest, that's serverless and auto scaling is the best way to have a cheap application, because if nobody using your app, sorry for you, but at least you pay nothing, because the API is not invoked and you are not charged at all. Okay, so this function is interpreted and exposed as an API. So this is the overall architecture of today. So the client is web. It's a React app. You see, using Gitpod that we deployed the web server there. A folder is called function, and it will expose serverless function. That's the box in orange of my screen. So the React app will only talk to function. React app will not talk to the REST service under the hood. So we will see now that inside this serverless function, the only code that you will find is invoke Astra, insert some data, retrieve some data. So yeah, sometimes it's called BFF. It's a backend for frontend. That it's kind of a backend just as close as possible to the frontend here. Okay, and that's Netlify magic to instantiate the function when the frontend need it. And with that, back to you. I think I don't use my 5 minutes.
Yeah, you are very sharp on time. Okay, so let's move to the functions part, because you just saw what the functions are. And so the important point is that when you start, I reiterate, because that's a very important point, one of the main take-home points of today. When you deploy in the on Netlify, the functions will be run by Netlify in its own serverless way. You don't care of them. You don't have to maintain the infrastructure, and they will run there. By the way, you might find it interesting that after we did the injection of the environment variable, let me go back to Netlify and refresh just to make sure. If you go to site settings and you go to, maybe it's build and deploy environment, look, we never inserted those variables here, but the import environment from Gitpod over made all of the relevant environment variables appear here in Netlify for the serverless functions to use. So it's for real. Everything is as we said. Okay, so let's go back to Netlify. You remember we quickly looked at the Gitpod YAML, that is a secret YAML file with some information on for how should Gitpod pick up your repository and make this editor, this IDE start. In a similar way, there is this file Netlify toml, which is a very small, simple file. It just says, hey, Netlify, in the folder called functions, you will find JavaScript modules. Each one of them will be functions to expose as an API, as an endpoint. And let's go looking at this folder, because this is outside of the client part. It is part of the project, but it's somewhere else. So you see, let me show you in the File Explorer, top-level directory functions. It contains something called utils. Utils contains Astra client.js. Now, this is a small piece of JavaScript code, and it is something that exposes an important function, a synchronous function called getCollection. Now, the getCollection relies on getAstraClient in turn, and getAstraClient is a function that uses these dependency, Astra.js collections, which is part of the SDK to interact with the collections API of AstraDB. You remember Stargate builds a document, sort of schemaless, so to speak, a schemaless interface on top of AstraDB, which is basically as Cassandra a column database, so a schema full, but thanks to Stargate, in particular to the document API, you can access it in a schemaless way, just inserting and reading documents, whatever they are. Indeed, in JavaScript, in Node, you access this layer, this API with the Astra.js collections package. And this is how you do it. So just for you to have an idea, this is where we read environment variables and give them to initialization of the client. The client is then basically kept cached and returned. You see there is here a document client collection TikTok posts. This is where a reference to the collection, because this is where a reference to the collections is returned to those who need it. So this function getCollection will just return a reference to the collection. I say collection and not table because this is the customary language when it comes to document store. But basically there is a table underlying that. But anyway, so this getCollection is in turn used by the functions. So you see in this functions directory, we have add.js, add.data, edit, and posts. Each one of them will be exposed exactly as its own, as an endpoint, as an API endpoint, without the need to do anything. And in particular, let's look at these posts here. So you see, this syntax is pretty standard for Netlify serverless functions. And this is the behavior to associate to an endpoint called something, something, something / posts. So the module name gives the name to the endpoint. And what does this endpoint do? Well, it gets a reference to the collection, as we saw, and it calls a method find to get every document in the collection. And then it returns it formatted in a particular way. Now, in this very moment, these functions are running. So I should be able to, I think if I remember by heart, that should be .netlify /functions /posts.
Yep.
Yes,
Post.
there we go. So you see, thanks to the Netlify magic, every single one of those modules in the functions directory is exposed as its own individual endpoint. And well, maybe I try to make this bigger, but if you look at the results, maybe I should also make the address bar bigger, but I don't know how to do it. So maybe I will just point out that this is no secret and it is shown somewhere. I remember it in the README. I can't seem to see it. Maybe later. that was explained somewhere. Yes, because we are, yeah, here. Create an endpoint at so-and-so. So this function endpoint, this post endpoint will just return all posts. You just saw the code. And indeed, these are, you see, these are documents. This is how my browser formats basically a JSON containing a list of post documents. Okay, so with that, I think the basic idea behind serverless functions and how to implement them for Netlify is this, because there are functions that do similar things. There is one used to edit a post, so maybe change from follow to unfollow, one to add data. We will come to that in a second. One to add a single post. So this is the one called when you post a new item in the TikTok. In particular, add data does a dirty trick, because this is the one that is called at the beginning when the page loads, and it will secretly populate the database for you, because if you remember, we never inserted by hand any of the posts you actually see here in your TikTok clone. So what does add data do? It just contains explicitly the list of posts, and it will then, these are sample posts, but this is not where they will be read during the application execute. So when the application runs, these are just written once to the database, and then they will be served with the post endpoint that actually reads from your document database, from your collection. So the post in the application when it's running come from the database. So the full functioning, the real root of the data is realized. That's important to notice. Okay, so do we have time to have a quick look at the Swagger API? I think so, because there's actually
I think you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep time for the game,
Yes.
of course.
So let's say,
but I think we're good.
Let's say we can take another
5
minutes or so to. Okay, I think I've been logged out again, but that's no problem. That should work. Okay. Okay, so if you go to your Astra console, you click on your database workshops, and maybe something that we didn't remark earlier is that you have several tabs here to interact with your database. You can look at its health. You can actually spawn a SQL console to interact, a shell to interact with the database, but that's not the only way to connect with your database from this UI. Because if you click on the Connect tab, you see there is a list of ways to speak with your database from various languages, with various SDKs. And in particular, I draw your attention to the first case, Document API, which is already here. So this is, there is a bit of explanation how to access the documents as we did for the TikTok clone. So how to access that layer provided by Stargate that makes tables in your database accessible as if it were schemaless documents. This is not only explanations, because if you look here, there is a Swagger UI. Now, we don't have time to go much in detail, but let me click on this link, which opens a nice web interface that serves both as documentation of all endpoints for the Document API, and it also works as an interactive tryout panel interface where I can play with these endpoints. So look at this one. Maybe I try to make this bigger. Namespace ID collections. This is the endpoint. So we are now trying the interface of AstraDB that offers the Document API. So these are the same HTTP. We will be trying the same HTTP endpoints that the serverless functions use to speak with Astra. Obviously, now we are using this Swagger UI. We might be doing curl. We might be using Postman, whatever. In principle, you could also write your Node serverless functions code to do explicit requests but there is an SDK for that makes it much easier. So why not go with that? But just for you to have an idea what's going on, if you choose this endpoint, say list collections in a namespace, and you click try it out, you're able to run requests, to shoot requests directly here in this interface. Importantly, I have to paste my token, because otherwise how could I authenticate? And if I remember, I don't remember the name of the key space. So it should be TikTok underscore key space.
Yes.
So here we go. So you have to put information, but then if you click execute, look what happened. Here I have my answer. And my answer is, there is a single table called TK posts. Very good. That's not all there is to it. I still have 1 or 2 minutes. So let me go to search documents in a collection. So this is another endpoint, part of the various endpoints in the document API. I'll try it out. I'll give it the token. So this is an endpoint that gives me the actual documents in the collection. And incidentally, this is exactly the endpoint used in the posts serverless function. But again, I'm not doing requests. I'm using the SDK in the code. But here, to better see what's going on, let us build explicitly the request. So I have to put a token. Namespace ID is the key space, TikTok key space. Collection ID, you remember it was TK posts. And that is already enough. Maybe I can put a page size. I want 4 items per page, and I execute. Now, if you see, these are exactly our TikTok posts coming from the database as documents, as JSON basically, through the document API offered by Stargate. And now you see, while you build this request, you also see it built as a curl command. So there's nothing magical going on. This is just a curl command, an HTTP request, just straight at the Stargate layer, and its response will be exactly what you see here, the documents. And if you go back to the functions, these users.find, which returns the posts, as you saw, so that relies on the collections SDK, but behind the scenes, what it does is it handles that very same HTTP request. There might be something more to play with, but I leave that to your curiosity and your browsing of the repository README, because I think we are now approaching the end of today's workshop. So let me go back to your slides, Cedric, if that's okay.
Yes. Yeah, with a slide I was doing right now from a question from Duigu ABR. Just, hey, can you give us an overview before wrapping up and playing the game? So that would be my 2-minute wrap up with my brand new slide.
So can I switch to your screen already, or?
Please.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Oh, sorry, wrong button. Oops. Here we go. There you are.
Oh yeah, not sure. Yeah.
No,
hey. Okay, so first things we did, we create the database AstraDB with Cassandra. Out of the box provided inside AstraDB, you also have an API layer. So this is, let me show you. This is my Astra database. I do have multiple database here, and I can interact with Cassandra. On top of Cassandra, you do have tools like Swagger to interact with this API. I am inside Astra. Okay, second step, we created something in Netlify, a website, by uploading code we add on GitHub. So if we go there, go to Netlify, here that's Netlify UI. I do have a couple of websites, probably have multiple here. multiple application deploy, we just upload that. Okay, cool. Step 3, we open the code in Gitpod, not really browsing the code, but mostly getting everything needed to interact with AstraDB. Okay, so we did Astra setup, Netlify dev, and Netlify deploy to push the code and especially the configuration on the website. Because all the code were there already, we only push the configuration. Part of the code was some function. So in the code, there is a folder called function. And if you go there, you have multiple JavaScript files, one per function. And if you go here, just say, hey, expose function. And if you look at what these functions doing, it will invoke Astra under the hood. Okay, so this function invoke the API exposed by Astra, the one that Stefano showed at the very end with the Swagger UI. Swagger UI is a web client to interact with the API, just to show you what the API is doing. And with that, we do have a full-fledged app working with the website deploy on the cloud and the database also running on the cloud for free. I also had the question, how many, what is the free limit? So on the Netlify site, it's 120,000 query a month, and on AstraDB, 40 queries a month and up to 40 gigabytes of data. This credit is renewed every month. So for any project, student project, end of school project, even small production, more than enough. Nothing charged. We have never asked you any credit card. So if you reach that limit, simply the database will hibernate. Okay. Okay, enough talking, 10 minutes before the end, right on time for the game. Okay, and after the game, it will be giveaways like venture, lottery, and stuff like that. So, you know, you want to stay with us up to the end. Now it's all the fun. Thank you to stay with us up to now. So the game. Okay, so let me move to the game screen then. So now it's your time to join. So go to menti.com as the screen stated. So either on your mobile phone or a new browser, and use the code 36541208. So let me copy that. Or you can also scan the QR code on screen and your phone will route you to the home screen of the game. We will ask you question. Make sure to read the question on your phone, not YouTube, because the faster you answer, the more points you get. And YouTube does have a 1 or 2 second delay. So looking at your phone will give you the most chance to win. And when you are on the screen of the game, crush the thumb up button just for me to know how many of you are here. Okay, so let's see. I see 15. I see 18. Oh, my head is probably hiding the number of 22.
Let me move you a bit here.
Oh, can you? Oh, thank you. So I see
thumbs
almost,
are flowing in.
Yeah, I see more than 80 people with us. So those who stay with us up to the end, now is your chance to win some swag for free. I only feel 32. Can we jump up to 40 just for the game?
Yeah, let's make this a tough challenge.
It's 32-hour limit. Okay, I'm good with that. I will go with 32. That will be our 30. Oh, you know what? Maybe people are already on the next screen entering their name. So let's see. So let me go 33. There. Quiz time. Introduction to Cassandra, 5 questions. Okay, keep moving. I should wait for players. Okay, so we do have 4 questions. Okay, so I see you 34 now. And 4 questions. It will be a short game. So hopefully you pay attention during this 2 hours. and we could play.
Yeah.
Can we have a little bit of music? Maybe I can.
Yes, that's a good point. Let me start it. I usually forget about the quiz music, but
I can do
you
it
should
as well,
be hearing that. So not you, Cedric, but you.
Yeah, I'm the only one who does. Okay, anyway, I think we do have the quota. We have waited 2-3 minutes. Let's move to the game, okay? So answer, look at your phone to get the question as soon as possible. Question 1. What is Astra? A car by Hope. It's a local in-memory database. It's Cassandra as a service in the cloud. It's a development tool. Yeah, most of you have the good answer. That's great. It's indeed Cassandra as a service in the cloud. This is how we use it today. There is more. We also have Pulsar, a streaming service there for you as well for free. But you know, it's Cassandra. It's not really a development tool because it's a real database. So let's see who was the fastest.
Technically, Astra is also a car by Opel, but let's say this was in a different context, so I don't know if that counts.
It's also a movie. Okay, well, yeah, okay. I could see some returning names that I know. So Mohit was the fastest for the first question. Okay, so 3 more questions to go. Nothing is done right now. So look at your phone. Are you ready? Let's go. What is Stargate? It's a TV show. It's an API framework. It's the gateway to the star. It's a new video game. So, are you a geek like me? No.
Well, I might say we have a whole workshop on Stargate, and that might be still in several meanings.
Exactly. So again, it is an API framework, but it's also, come on, a TV show. You know, with Captain O'Neill, General O'Neill. Yeah, 10th season in the 90s. Yeah, I'm old, but I love that series and movie. Okay, keep going. So
no game.
Let's see.
Okay, so. Yeah, it's a close competition.
Mohit took the lead.
Second position.
Mohit second. Carbs third. Japano, Emmanuel, Jeremy, Duigu, Sam Mader. Okay, so 2 more questions to go. Oh man, people is so focused now. They're not even listening at us anymore. Yeah. Okay, next question.
Be fast, but be also correct.
Yeah, which API allows you to save and search schemaless JSON in Cassandra? Document API, JSON API, REST API, GraphQL API. And I think you talk about it at the very end, yeah. Exactly which one to use.
Yeah, what is the right name and what is, yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. We keep talking about the REST API, and you know, only in the end we just unveil that we were using the document API of Stargate. Hey, not all the question needs to be the easiest.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are many right answers, so I think we did a decent job.
Yeah. Exactly. So good job. Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, Cabs. Oh, hey, so much suspense. You know, each time it's a new leader. Okay, so now stop playing.
Close to each other, by the way. So
exactly.
It's really still an open competition. This is the final question.
Okay, final question. Let's do it. What is the main benefits of using a serverless function? I only need one function to retrieve my data. No backend infrastructure needed. None. Serverless function are only for local development.
Let's see. We stressed this point quite enough, and it shows.
Exactly.
Congratulations.
So most of you... All right. Okay,
Let's
so
see.
no suspense. Who win the competition for today? We will have 3 winners. So let's see. Oh, Vroom was super fast, but yeah, it was not enough. So Carbs, Uni64 and Jacob, congratulations. You are our winners for today. So make a screenshot now of your win. You know, we tend to have more winners than winners. Make a screenshot of your win now and send an email to jack.fryer@datastacks.com to ask for the swag. And as stated, you need to make a screenshot of your Menti screen. So congratulations. Yep. So 3 first place. So congratulations for the winners. So in the last 2 minutes now, it's all about. So if you enjoy and want to do the homework, we do have a link in the GitHub repo how to do the homework. You will get asked a few questions regarding what we did and ask you to upload just your app running, or provide the URL of your TikTok app running. And we will review your work and give you that nice badge that you can brag on LinkedIn. Speaking of that, remember I told you, don't forget to submit. Yeah, that's a good point. I told you in the beginning, we do have the lottery starting today for 3 weeks. Having a badge is 5 points, and you can review some existing workshop to get more badges. You can brag on LinkedIn with it. That's even more 1 point. But yeah, please make some noise. Tell your friend that those workshops are cool, and we will keep doing them. Yeah. Speaking of which,
sorry, Cedric. One very quick point. Rags mentioned one thing in the chat. We address everyone who attended already other workshops earlier. We changed the way we accept homework submissions. So now it's a private. There's a private form, and your data is privately given to us. So pay attention. The submission method is different, and we think it's better for you. So go ahead and try it. Sorry.
Yeah, definitively. Now you don't need to share your email to everybody, and that's you will get some real question. Yeah, it's overall better for everyone. But happy to have any feedback after that on Discord or anything. We like to keep improve. So tell us if this feels better. Okay, so what are we doing next week, Stefano?
Okay, so next week we will have a new workshop based on building your own multiplayer real-time video game. And it's about spiders. And it will use Astra Streaming. So it will use a streaming platform that is now part of Astra. It's not the database, it is the streaming part. And there will be lots of fun. And you will have fun building and running your own multiplayer real-time game. So
and this time we will all play together live. It's with spiders. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So join only just to play the game and get a new badge or whatever.
Yes.
And with that, I think we completed all the step. We show all the love. So if you enjoyed the session today, consider to subscribe, the like button as usual. That keep us coming back every week for new topic. Hope you enjoy the energy, the interactivity. We all love doing those, and hope to see you next week.
And if you want, you can tweet about us if you liked us today. And if you tweet about us, I think Nightbot should tell you how. And that, I think, qualifies for the lottery. So don't forget the lottery.
Lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, every Wednesday, same times, exactly.
Usually so, but please join and have a look at
Datastacks.com/workshops, just to be sure.
Because we sometimes change our schedule and do other strange stuff. So please have a look at this link. Okay, Mohit, those are friendly spiders, cartoon spiders. Don't worry. No realistic graphics in the game, so should be fine for you.
Okay. Last slide on Discord, and with that, we are done for today. Thank you very much.
So thank you, everyone. See you next time. Thank you for being with us so far, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And as always, don't forget to click that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notifications for all of our future upcoming workshops.
In a being gifted with powers from the goddess of Cassandra, who grew those powers until she could multiply at will, move with limitless speed, and unmask hidden knowledge. With those powers, she was able to fully understand the connectedness of the world. What she saw was a world in need of understanding. From that day forward, she sought to bestow her powers on all who came into contact with her, empowering them to achieve wondrous feats.